Hello. This is going to be a video about what the piece "Do You Understand" means to me and the creation process is around it. If you haven't seen it yet, pause this video, go watch it. I will link it somewhere over here or underneath in the description. I would actually probably prefer people to experience the piece on its own first without all this back context, and then if you want to rewatch it now knowing this information, then watch it again. But I invite you to just watch it first without my explanation of it. So now you've made it here, hopefully you've seen the video. What it basically meant to me was it was an exploration of form of all these different arts, including poetry, music, movement, filmmaking that I love and have been dabbling in, and how to make them all come together to tell a story that was very near and dear to my heart. It started with me writing a poem about my grandmother and my immigration experience and learning a new language. What inspired it is this feeling I would get when I hear typically people who are monolingual make critiques or judgments or question why immigrants or foreigners don't just learn English or learn it properly, or they make fun of mispronunciations. And when I hear those judgments, whether it's just hearing it in real life or even having that as a joke in shows or films, it hurts because I've been there. I've been that person learning a new language. Yeah, I don't think I became fluent in English until I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. So I remember learning English and struggling through grammatical errors and tenses and not knowing vocabulary or information that was labeled as common sense and being very self-conscious about those things. So I really connect with the feeling of awkwardness and self-consciousness around not being able to speak a language and then being judged and criticized for it. The story that I wanted to tell was one that illustrates the backstory of someone who grew up in a completely foreign environment. And I think that's the piece that's missing in a lot of these critiques and judgments, is that there are these people who have immigrated and didn't grow up in North America, have an entire life in another cultural context with another language or multiple languages that they already know and have learned and grew up with that is vastly different from English. For someone to go from that to learning this isn't easy and not accessible to everybody. I had the privilege of having a pretty good education. My parents knew that we were immigrating and got us tutors since before we came to Canada, and then also we had a tutor for years after we got here to catch us up, being able to speak, read, and write English properly. And we were also still fairly young. I started learning English when I was a kid and had the opportunity to live in both the States and Canada since I was a child. So that is a privilege that a lot of people don't get. A lot of people immigrate to a new country in their adulthood, or maybe when they're older, maybe your grandparents' age, and a lot of them didn't even finish elementary school or high school. My grandmother never finished elementary school. She didn't know how to read and write, and she didn't even know Mandarin, which is the main language in Taiwan. This is a context that I don't think people understand, that it's not easy for a person to just pick up a language and become fluent at it. It's not that simple. So that's kind of the story and the image that I wanted to portray in this piece. Just that everybody has a story and people come from completely different lives and perspectives that you may not understand. So just putting that lens on the next time you find yourself making those judgments and criticisms towards a person that you know absolutely nothing about. So that's the backstory of what that means to me, and all the footage in the videos of the house was my grandmother's home. It was actually very emotional for me to look at those videos that I took years ago. I think that was from when I went back home in 2016. So I took that footage because I honestly didn't know if they were keeping the house, if it was going to be demolished, because it was already in really rough shape and nobody was living there. It was semi-abandoned. So I just wanted to capture that space. It was the home that my mother grew up in, and I also was there pretty much every single day throughout my whole childhood.
That's where we would eat family dinner like every single night pretty much. And we'd like, the kids would like, we'd eat our dinner in there. That's where she would cook. No dishwasher, so like growing up, I always did dishes for like 16 people. That used to be my mom's room when she was growing up.
I just had so many fond memories of being in that house. So it was an emotional process to go through the footage of this like abandoned house with so many emotions and memories attached to it. And then also looking at these old photos of my childhood in that same space where the whole family gathered and we had all these events. Also now remembering that most of those people in those photos are now gone, like they've passed on. So yeah, I think that's the whole creation of this video was like a very healing and emotional process for me. Starting with writing this poem, I cried many times writing it, just like remembering these memories and like connecting with those feelings of like wanting to belong and fit in and assimilate, stop sticking out and being self-conscious about being so different, to then going through the videos and the photos and like putting that together and connecting those emotions. I felt so many feels, and then also embodying that in movement was something that I hadn't really done before either. So it was like poetry, words, videos, photos, and movement. And there's also like a musical element where I'm like just new to learning how to like produce and write music. So it was my first time really like recording and writing little like guitar parts and like layering flute on it, and then putting it into like a DAW. Like I was using Ableton, which I've never actually made a track on. So it was all a brand new learning experience, and having all of these things come together. And I also wrote that little singing bit at the end there, and that's in Taiwanese, which I alluded to in the story is the language that my grandmother spoke, and I only know it because my grandmother spoke it. I don't really know it anymore. Like I can understand it if I hear it, but it doesn't roll off my tongue easily. So to like write a song in it and pronounce it, I had to like ask my mom and have her like correct me on the pronunciation over and over again to make sure that I wasn't like screwing this up, because it's not something I'm familiar with, but it does bring up a lot of memories and emotions. And I feel like it, for me, tells the story in a way that English or even Mandarin couldn't, because it brings me like all the way back to like childhood. Yeah, both my grandparents only spoke Taiwanese. I don't remember ever speaking Mandarin to them. They didn't understand. So yeah, like speaking Taiwanese like brings me back to like a whole period of my life that doesn't exist anymore because they're gone. There's like no point of me ever using this language. Like reconnecting with the fact that how I can just lose a language is also like quite painful, because it's a section of my identity and of my life that I can viscerally feel and experience slipping away and fading. It's a loss. I don't know, it's very difficult to explain that in words. Maybe something you can connect to is if you used to be able to play a certain sport and have your body do a certain motion, and then with time, with not practicing, you can no longer do that thing anymore. That's the feeling of, it's the loss of a piece of yourself that was important. It was very healing for me to also reconnect and write in it, because I don't even speak it, let alone like write a song. So to create this little singing piece and then practice it and train my tongue to like make those shapes again, just such an experience. I don't know if any of that makes sense. This project was so many firsts, and it was a very personal journey in the creation of it. Yeah, I was just peeling back so many layers of my childhood and my past, and reflecting on that and reflecting on where I am now. And there's also the elements of like navigating things technically, learning how to like produce and put things into like a program and then make it fit together, like editing in a video editing program and using little functions that I have never used before. So I learned so much in making this. It was a new exploration of form that I'm really excited about, and I really fell in love with the process. Definitely I'm excited to make more and tell more of these stories. I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of my creation process. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think. Like the video, comment, subscribe to my channel to see more further projects. I really appreciate all of your love and support. And I will see you all next time.